My informative speech topic is taking a stand against animal cruelty in the meat industry. Over the past half-century, factory farming has been the main cause of animal cruelty. On today's factory farms, animals are crammed by the thousands into filthy, windowless sheds and stuffed into wire cages, metal crates, and other torturous devices. These animals will never raise their families, root around in the soil, build nests, or do anything that is natural and important to them. Most won't even feel the warmth of the sun on their backs or breathe fresh air until the day they're loaded onto trucks headed for the slaughterhouses. According to ASPCA, more than 10 billion farmed animals are killed for food each year in the U.S. alone. As the demand for more production of meat grows, the conditions these animals are forced to live in get worse. We can stop this cruel and violent system by switching our support from industrial to local meats and dairy. In fact, big meat industries have stripped us from the reality within their factories. According to Webster's dictionary, the general definition of meat industry is described as the modern industrialized livestock agriculture for production, packing, preserving, and marketing of meat. What they don't want us to know is how and what they really do to meet these standards of production. Let's start with the livestock. Let's start with pork. For nearly their entire 4-month pregnancy, mother sows are locked into narrow metal stalls barely larger than their own bodies. Many of the animals develop open sores and scratches. Soon after birth, piglets are castrated by workers who cut into their skin and rip out their testicles. Next, the workers cut off their tails. Both painful procedures are done without any anesthesia. Piglets who become sick or injured or are not growing quickly enough are killed. Common killing methods include throwing animals into bins and painfully gassing them with carbon dioxide, while others are killed by being slammed headfirst into the ground. At a factory farm in Ohio, workers killed injured sows by hanging them on a forklift to be slowly strangled to death, a practice defended by the pork industry. Pigs raised for meat typically live only for 5 to 6 months, a mere fraction of their natural lifespan. Workers frequently tattoo the animals with ID numbers by hitting them with metal spiked mallets. Once pigs have reached their market weight, they are sent to the slaughterhouse. At the slaughterhouse, pigs are knocked in the head with steel rods, hung upside down, and have their throats slit while being fully conscious. Others are even scalded alive in hair removal tanks. From the moment they are hatched from their eggs, the industry subjects chicks to horrors that few of us can even imagine. At the hatchery, workers quickly and roughly sort out the males from the females. Because male chicks don't lay eggs and do not grow quickly enough to raise profitably for meat. Male chicks are typically thrown into giant grinding machines while still alive. The practice is deemed standard and acceptable by the egg industry. Another killing method is to drop male chicks into trash bags and have them smothered or suffocated. More than 200 million unwanted male chicks are killed on their first day of life in the U.S. alone. On the other hand, female chicks continue on with their factory life. Once the female chicks are sorted out from the males, workers use a hot blade or laser to remove the tip of the chicks' beaks. This mutilation can cause both acute and chronic pain. After debeaking, the birds are moved to cages where they will spend the rest of their lives in. Nearly 95% of egg-laying hens spend their lives confined in tiny wired cages. They are packed so tightly they cannot even spread their wings, walk, or turn around without pushing other birds aside. The harsh and unrelenting environment often causes severe feather loss, open wounds, having their skin rubbed raw, and birds trapped in the cage wire. For many hens, the stressful confinement is too much, leading to premature death. According to Solotareff's article on the Rolling Stones magazine, undercover investigators at egg farms from coast to coast have revealed the culture of cruelty and neglect, which involves workers stomping on birds, throwing live hens on dead piles, or thrown in trash cans. According to Solotareff's article on the Rolling Stones magazine, Undercover investigators at egg farms from coast to coast have revealed the culture of cruelty and neglect, which involves workers stomping on birds, throwing live hens on dead piles, or thrown in trash cans. At 1 or 2 years of age, when a hen's egg production begins to decline, she is violently ripped from her cage, where workers often fling the birds into metal carts and then painfully suffocated with carbon dioxide. Poultry, crowded by the thousands into filthy sheds, chickens and turkeys are denied many of their most basic natural behaviors and needs, such as fresh air and exercise. Through genetic selection, and turkeys are raised for meat have been bred to grow so large so quickly that many suffer crippling leg disorders, chronic joint pain, and even fatal heart attacks. Workers that pick the sick or injured birds either break their necks or club them to death. Those who live to reach market weight are thrown into transport crates and loaded into trucks bound for the slaughter plants. Handling is often violent and frequently causes bruises, broken bones, and other injuries. At the slaughter plant, the birds are dumped from their crates and then roughly snapped upside down into moving shuttles by their fragile legs. From there, the birds are dragged through an electrified pool of water, which renders them paralyzed, but not necessarily unconscious. They are then pulled across a blade which slices their throats. Some of the birds who miss the blade have their throats cut or their heads ripped off by a backup killer. Other birds are drowned and scalded into tanks of hot water designed to loosen the birds' feathers. Dairy. Cows produce milk for the same reason humans do, to nourish their young. Calves on dairy farms are dragged away from their mothers after a day or two of their birth. The calves are then violently killed so that humans can have the milk instead. The majority of today's dairy cows are confined on factory farms and spend most of their lives standing on concrete floors while others are crammed into massive mudlots. Workers cut off cows' tails by slicing through her sensitive skin, nerves, and bones without any painkillers. Another routine practice is dehorning, which is the burning of the skulls to remove their budding horns, in which painkillers are rarely used. An undercover investigator in a Californian dairy farm has revealed the cows being kicked, shocked, and pushed violently with forklifts and water hosed in the mouth and nose just to get them to move for the next step: beef. Most cattle raised for beef endure several mutilations without any painkillers, including castration and hot iron branding. Most spend their last few months of their life standing in their own waste in overcrowded feedlots. Unreliable, stunning practices at the slaughterhouses condemned many cattle having their throats cut and their limbs hacked off while they are fully conscious. Fish, like all living animals, are sensitive, intelligent creatures who have demonstrated a capacity to suffer through pain just the same as any other animal. Massive trolling nets indiscriminately drag hundreds and tons of fish and other sea animals along the sea floor. As they are dragged up from the ocean depths, the fish undergo excruciating decompression, which can rupture their swim bladders and pop out their eyes. They are then tossed on board where the surviving fish either suffocate or are crushed to death. Others that manage to survive are hacked apart on these floating slaughterhouses. Untold millions of dolphins, turtles, and other non-target aquatic animals are also killed by ocean trawler nets each year. Today, approximately 1 in 5 fish that are consumed worldwide were raised in captivity. Like factory-farmed animals on land, farm-raised fish are crowded by the tens of thousands in small, disease and excrement-ridden water farms for the rest of their lives. When fish reach their market weight, they are loaded onto tanker trucks and shipped to slaughterhouses. Animal agriculture has doubled up more and more over the recent decades. The amount of energy these factories use each year costs us water, land, crops, and transportation exhausts. We can reduce the impact of climate change, rainforest destruction, and pollution while saving water and other precious resources. Farm animals are every bit as intelligent, curious, and capable of feeling the pain and suffering as the dogs and cats so many of us know and love. There has never been a better time to go green by eating local foods. Not only can this change help our environment locally, it can help make a global change. Thank you for listening.